Here are the hottest issues up now.
China sentences citizen journalist to 4 years in prison for Wuhan lockdown reports.
50 journalists, including 3 Filipinos, were killed globally in 2020, the Reporters Without Borders said.
Philippines' largest media network forced off air.
Ukraine government counters the opposition's media activities.
Heroism of the coconut vendor in Binawan Rizal caught on camera.
Man's surfboard lost in Hawaii, found 5,000 miles away in the Philippines. Good day, Philippines! You are all watching Prime News Alliance.
Your source of truth at daytime.
A Chinese citizen journalist was jailed for 4 years for her live stream reporting in Wuhan as the COVID-19 outbreak unfurled, almost a year after details of an unknown viral pneumonia surfaced in the central China city. Here's Trisha Rodriguez for the full details.
Zhang Chan, a 37 years old former lawyer and a journalist, was sentenced at a brief hearing in the Shanghai court for allegedly picking quarrels and provoking trouble for her reporting in the chaotic initial stages of the outbreak. Her live reports and essays were widely shared on social media platforms in February, grabbing the attention of the authorities who have punished 8 virus whistleblowers so far as they defunk criticisms of the government's response to the outbreak. Her critical reports accusing the governments of suppressing the voices of regular citizens and failing to inform residents of the reality in contrasted with Rose's state media coverage. One of the few sources of information, Zhang was detained in May. Beijing has congratulated itself for extraordinary success in controlling the virus inside its borders, with an economy on the rebound while much of the rest of the world stutters through painful lockdowns and surging caseloads a year from the start of the pandemic in Wuhan. Controlling the information flow during an unprecedented global health crisis have been pivotal in allowing China's communist authorities to reframe the narrative in their favor, but that has come at a serious cost to anyone picking holes in that storyline. According to Ren Kuan Yu, one of Zhang's defense lawyers, Zhang Chan looked devastated when the sentence was announced, confirming that 4-year jail term is outside Shanghai Pudong District People's Court. Concerns are mounting over the health of 37-year-old Zhang, who began hunger strike in June and has been force-fed via a nasal tube. China's communist authorities have a history of putting dissidents on trial in opaque courts between Christmas and New Year to minimize Western investigations. The trial comes just weeks before an international team of World Health Organization experts is expected to arrive in China to investigate the origins of COVID-19. Zhang was critical of the early response in Wuhan, writing in a February essay that the government didn't give people enough information, then simply locked down the city. This is a great violation of human rights, she wrote. The court said she had spread false remarks online, according to Zhang Keke.
在别的国家，言论自由和新闻报道自由是非常的公开和敞开的，在中国反而不一样。特别是因为在武汉发生这个事，那张展他是抱着希望能够帮助武汉人民，希望能够去了解他们的疾苦，能够让外界有所知道，来就是每个人能更好的回避这种灾难嘛。
反叛或者叛逆吧，就是，我觉得为什么这些东西不能拍啊？那我觉得这个是事实嘛，为什么不能拍事实？然后他们这样一说，就提醒我了，说我要先去把这个武汉的事实让网上的人知道，去给外界的人了解武汉发生什么事情。对。
Rights groups have also drawn attention to her case. According to Lei Lan, research and advocacy consultant at the Chinese Human Rights Defenders NGO, authorities want to use her case as an example to scare off other dissidents from raising questions about the pandemic situation in Wuhan. Zhang is the first to face the trial of the group of 4 citizen journalists detained by authorities last year after reporting from Wuhan. Previous attempts by the other 3 journalists, Chen Kuishi, Fang Bin, and Li Zehua, were unsuccessful. Prime News Alliance, Tricia Rodrigueza reporting.
Thank you, Trisha. To other issues, at least 50 journalists, including 3 Filipinos, were in the hot eye last year. Based on Reporters Without Borders annual roundup, 84% were deliberately targeted and killed in connection with their work. For full coverage, here's my partner, Renmar Sorrento.
Various media organizations, including the Committee to Protect Journalists or CPJ, consider 2020 as the worst year for journalists and media workers, following the sudden rise on media-related murder cases released by a non-profit organization, Reporters Without Borders or RWB.
With its new high on RWB's count of killed journals, we declare 2020 as the worst time for media. It clearly shows that our today's freedom to express has boundaries and consequences.
Based on the RWB's data, the record of 84% on deliberately targeted and eliminated journalists last year is higher than 2019 with 63% and the highest since 2016 with 74%. One of its founders, Robert Maynard, labeled the murdered journalists as hot-eyed due to their investigative reports and stories on drug cartels, terrorism, political corruption, and environmental issues. Moreover, Maynard points the countries were not at war have the most number of deaths last year, which were different from their previous records.
They thought our journalists are deliberately targeted and killed due to their contribution to the truth. We salute these media heroes. The deadliest country for journalism are definitely different this year. Those countries outside the war let the death count while war countries become least.
According to the 2020 report, Mexico became the leading hotspot with 8, and an average of 8 to 10 media workers annually since 2016, including the cases on beheading of a reporter named Julio Valdivia Rodriguez and the assassination of a local news editor named Fernando Alvarez Chavez. Meanwhile, Islamic countries Iraq and Afghanistan are the second deadliest nations with 6 reported cases, followed by India and Pakistan with 4, and Philippines and Honduras with 3. Locally, the most recent Filipino victim is Virgilio Maganes, who was headshot by a notorious gun for hire in front of his home in Barangay San Blas, Villasis, Pangasinan. According to the initial investigation from the Police Regional Office 1 Director Rodolfo Azurin Jr., the radio commentator was about to enter his residential compound when the motorcycle-riding gunman fired 6 times at him. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines or NUJP condemned the Maganes murder case and revealed the possible relation on the shootout attempt in 2016.
On November 8, 2016, Maganes survived an attempt on his life by playing dead when motorcycle-riding gunmen shot him as he rode a tricycle. A sign was left near the scene that said, "Drug pusher, wag pamarisan," in what was seen to be an attempt to divert attention from the real motive for the slay trial.
On December 9, the Urdaneta Crime Laboratory released the computerized facial sketch of the alleged gunman named No Dukay based on the witnesses. Immediately, the Pangasinan Crime Investigation implemented a search warrant at the residence of Dukay that led to his arrest. Aside from the reported brutal killings, RWB called a historically high record of 387 jailed journalists worldwide due to their possible violations on press freedom in 2020. For media experts, the issue in murders and imprisonment of the journalists means the global press freedom is in balance. However, the oath and the job of being the servant of truth will always remain and steadfast. This is Renmar Sorrento for Prime News Alliance.
Thank you, Renmar. Furthermore, the local media giant ABS-CBN failed to guarantee 25-year airing franchise and forcibly shut down by the Congress last year due to his spurious issue. Here's General Academia for the report.
Philippines' top broadcaster has been ordered to shut down last May 2020. The Telecoms Authority says ABS-CBN license has expired. The channel has in the past angered President Rodrigo Duterte, who correspondents say is well known for silencing media critics. President Duterte has been engaged in a long-running feud with ABS-CBN after the channel angered him during the 2016 presidential election by refusing to broadcast his campaign ads.
This attack on legitimate media, together with the recently passed anti-terror law, is a throwback to the time of autocratic rule under Marcos. Citizens, you have been warned. Your civil liberties have been eroded. Your democracy is shrinking fast.
Media watchdogs describe the move as a serious blow to press freedom. Amnesty International's Philippines Section Director Butch Ulano said in a statement, ordering ABS-CBN to stop its operation is an outrageous attack on media freedom. The Filipino people need accurate information from independent sources. The government must act immediately to keep ABS-CBN on air and cease all attempts to curtail media freedom. This latest move against ABS-CBN occurs after repeated attacks in the past against the network by President Duterte himself. It is yet another attack on freedom of expression in recent weeks, following the authorities' legal threats against people who criticize the government's response to the pandemic.
The resolution to deny ABS-CBN's franchise application is hereby adopted.
Just before its main channel went dark, Chairman Mark Lopez told viewers, "It is painful for us that we are being shut down, but it is also painful for millions of our countrymen who believe that our service is important to
them." There was nothing illegal that ABS-CBN did, and no less than the government agencies like the Bureau of Internal Revenue and even the National Telecommunications Commission said that everything is above board. The problem with majority of the legislators who are members of the Committee on Legislative Franchises is that they ignored the recommendations of the NTC and the BIR and their findings, and they just went about their ways. So this is clearly a systematic attack on the media, because we cannot forget what happened, not just on ABS-CBN, but also to Rappler and Maria Ressa, to be more specific, as well as other members of the alternative media regarding the harassment and intimidation that they are facing under this administration. Make no mistake about it, This is not just because of Congress, but because of the President himself.
Kapamilya, yan po ang mga balitang nakalap sa aming mas malawak na pagpapatrol.
The network had their way of solutions to continue serving the Filipino people by digital platforms. ABS-CBN's digital platforms are not covered by the cease and desist order of the National Telecommunications Commission that prohibits ABS-CBN from continuing its broadcast operation in radio and television. ABS-CBN will continue to deliver the biggest news. Filipinos can watch the country's #1 newscast, TV Patrol, on the ABS-CBN News Facebook and ABS-CBN News YouTube channel. I Want, ANC, and TFC, or the Filipino channel.
This is ABS-CBN Corporation Channel 2, in the service of the Filipino. Now signing off.
Prime News Alliance, General Academia, reporting.
Ukraine shutdowns various anti-government local media networks. For the coverage, welcome back, General Academia.
Ukraine has shut down 3 domestic television channels linked to a politician close to Vladimir Putin, alleging that they pose a national security risk by spreading Kremlin disinformation at a time when the country is in its 8th year of an undeclared war with Russia.
Among 19 members of the National Security and Defense Council, 17 voted for the decision. One member of the National Security and Defense Council abstained, and one is on a business trip. The decision was made, the relevant decree is posted on the president's website.
In a presidential order announced late on February 3, current year, Tuesday, Volodymyr Zelensky imposed sanctions on Channel 112, News 1, and ZIK and their legal owner Taras Kozak for 5 years. The TV channels were blacked out overnight.
This decision of the National Security Council was based on evidence of the existence of a threat to the national security and defense of the country gathered by the Security Service of Ukraine. In the future, all these materials gathered by the Security Service will be evaluated by a court in a trial.
Mr. Zelensky posted on his tweet, "Sanctions is a difficult decision. Ukraine strongly supports freedom of speech, not propaganda, financed by the aggressor country that undermines Ukraine on its way to EU and Euro-Atlantic integration. Fight for independence is fight in the information war for truth and European values." In a joint statement, the broadcaster said Mr. Zelensky aimed to destroy 3 opposition TV channels. The measures taken against the channels are the latest in a series of controversial moves that Mr. Zelensky administration says are to counter foreign and domestic national security threats.
Over the past year, TV channel 112 received 6 warnings, TV channel Zik received 5. As for the News One, for more than a year there is a case in court to terminate their license. It is in connection with serious violations of the law on television and radio broadcasting. I'm talking about the language of violence, about issues that are treated as cause for violence, about contempt.
The U.S. Embassy in Kyiv said on Twitter on February 4, Wednesday, current year, the U.S. supports Ukraine efforts yesterday to counter Russia's malign influence. In line with Ukrainian law, in defense of its sovereignty and territorial integrity, we must all work together to prevent disinformation from being deployed as a weapon in an info war against sovereign states.
Prime News Alliance, General Academia, reporting. Thank you, General. Moreover, the heroic act of coconut vendor in Binangonan, Rizal went viral on social media as he did not hesitate to pour the coconut juice he sells to a burning tricycle. Here's Camille Joy Cabarle for the picture.
On the side street of Binangonan, Rizal, a tricycle was on fire and a man was seen beating the fire trying to put it out. Some people around and motorists passing by seemed to be just watching what was happening until a man did not hesitate and poured out something from a water container until the fire was completely extinguished. The only person that does not hesitate to help and act to put out the fire was a coconut juice vendor named Larry Lasak. And what he poured to the burning tricycle was a merchandise of coconut juice he was selling.
Yung tricycle po, tumigil sa tapat ko, nagliliat ang makina, walang may buhos na tubig yung driver. Naisip ko baka sumabog, maraming madamay. Kaya naibuhos ko yung tinda kong buko para mamatay yung
The fire truck and the member of the rescue team arrived, but what they found out was not fire, but the scattered nuts on the road.
Dumating po yung mga taga-munisipyo, yung bumbero at saka yung rescue. Patay na po yung apoy, kaya nakita nilang kalat ang buko sa kalsada.
According to Binangonan local government, Larry Lasak is a former jeepney driver who returned to his province after his mother died. He is currently selling coconut juice to live despite the pandemic. With his brave act, the municipal government of Binangonan gave recognition to Lasak's heroism and awarded him on Wednesday, February 11, and they also give a financial assistance to help. Prime News Alliance, Camille Joy Cabarle reporting.
Thank you, Camille. Moving forward, a surfer and photographer named Doug Falter from Hawaii, who has lost his surfboards in 2018, now found it after 2 years in the Philippines within 5,200 miles away. Here's Maricar Arago.
31 months later, Falter shared with his followers that he had found out his lost surfboard had made its way to Sarangani, a coastal province in the Philippines, which is around 5,200 miles away from Haleiwa. The person who found the elusive surfboard was Juban Branzella, an elementary school teacher who aspires to become a surfer himself one day. Falter narrated the story in his Facebook caption as he wrote, "As bummed as I was when I lost it, now I am happy to know my board fell into the hands of someone wanting to learn the sport. I couldn't imagine a better ending to this story than to see the sport of surfing begin in a place where nobody surfs. If it weren't for travel restrictions, I would have raised money to bring boards for learning and surf supplies and be on a plane to go and visit Jovan. I could teach him how to surf and hopefully a few of his 144 students. In his post, Falder explains how Jovan Branzuela, the owner of the board, bought it from a local fisherman because he wanted to learn surfing. Branzuela, a primary school teacher in the Philippines, purchased the board from a local fisherman for $40. The fisherman found it in the middle of the sea in August 2018, nearly 6 months after its disappearance. Because of its sea voyage across the Pacific, the surfboard had turned yellowish from its original pale blue. Yet, the name of Lyle Carson, a Hawaii-based board shaper, was still visible on it. Branzuela got in touch with Carson, who informed Dog of this miraculous find. On hearing Falter's story, netizens were left stunned. They took over the comment section to express themselves. One Facebook user wrote, and just like that, Falter and Branzuela were connected by Carlson via social media. Falter began a GoFundMe to raise money for supplies he intends to ship over the Philippines for Branzuela and his students, including reading materials and surf gear. The online fund is titled Surfing from Waimea Bay to the Philippines. Falter said that it was not only amazing to find out his board floated so far, but even more amazing to know it fell into the hands of a person who wants to learn the sport. He also added that it's not just any person in the Philippines, but a teacher who, to his knowledge, has sacrificed living with his immediate family to teach and lead at an elementary school for 144 students. I think it's safe to say his story of selflessness gave me the idea to raise money for the school he teaches at. The exposure of this story has allowed me to raise over $2,000 for his students, he added. The way I see it, it's a true testament to the term kindness is contagious. The feeling of giving is unlike any other, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to do so.
Prime News Alliance, Margar D. Arago, reporting.
That's all for the latest newscast.
Your only source of truth at daytime. I am Renmer Soreda.
I am Camille Tamarlin.
This is Prime News Alliance.